The one big question, when I know you all have that in your mind, breast cancer, is it genetic? The research shows that genetically our bodies are virtually the same. Our bodies are virtually the same as they were at the end of the Paleolithic era. The appearance of agriculture and domestication of animals and the Industrial Revolution some 200 years ago introduced new dietary pressures for which no adaptation has been possible in such a short time span, right? We're talking about the epigenetic underlying changes. Thus, an inevitable discordance exists between our dietary intake and what our genes are suited to do. Therefore, DNA evidence shows that genetically, humans have hardly changed at all. To be specific, the human genome has changed less than 0.02% in all of human existence. In other words, built into our genes is a blueprint for optimal nutrition. A plan that spells out that foods that make us healthy, lean, and fit, that food should. The incidence of breast cancer varies greatly around the world, being lower in less developed countries and greatest in more developed countries. Says a lot about our very fascinating fast food diet. Women in the United States have the highest incidence rates of breast cancer in the world. So the question is obvious that it's lifestyle.
So I think if you have a lot of stress, our body makes stress hormone first.
Correct.
So they don't have enough
Of the estrogen,
to
yes.
any sexual hormones.
Yes.
They cause a lot of imbalance in sexual hormones.
Correct. And that's what we're seeing from our results, that the question is the balancing, right, of progesterone, testosterone, and estrogen. And then among the estrogen components, a balance between E1, E2, and E3.
And also our body, if there are extra estrogen, our body naturally
Would detox it,
properly.
yes.
But if you have a lot of toxins,
It's held back.
And then it just goes back to the body. Which is
Yes,
very bad.
yes.
So stress management is the most important. That's why when we do testing, we have to have a stress test.
Correct,
together
as
with-
part of it. Yes, too, so that we can look at the mapping for cortisol over the day. So the tissues of women with breast cancer may have 10 to 50 times the level of plasma concentrations of estrogen. That's what Dr. E was just talking about. This suggests that estrogens are not properly detoxified and therefore accumulate in breast tissue. These levels will increase the risk of breast cancer, right? It's very important. So what are the current treatments? The hormone replacement therapy, which we practice a lot, bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. There's some other practices around antidepressants, insulin, sleeping medication, surgery, anti-inflammatory, and thyroid medications. But the diagnosis of hormone imbalances, we run a very comprehensive test, what I've mentioned before, where we use a dried urine test to do that, producing a very comprehensive report that really goes into a lot of detail in looking at the compositions of progesterone. It looks at the progesterone metabolites, which are the outcomes from the progesterone hormone. It looks at pregnenolone. For estrogen, it looks at E1, E2, and E3. It also looks at the methoxyforms for E1 and the methoxyforms for E2. Then it looks at the androgens, which would be the DHEA, the androsterone, the testosterone, and the free testosterone and other levels around that, and looks at the different ranges. So this report is a very comprehensive report that actually the objective is to really see how stress and our lifestyles actually affects the overall balance of our hormones over time. And so that influences our intervention strategies with regard to how we address some of the lifestyle attributes that I've spoken a lot about. For example, specifically stress, toxicity, sleep, diet, and nutrients. So when we look at the lifestyle issues, we have 8 of them, but here we are focusing just on the 5 that have a very critical contribution. And I'm going to add exercise, because exercise actually impacts all of these things, right, in terms of a modifying aspect to it. But these are the contributory aspects to the balancing of our hormones architecture.
Hormone is like a messenger.
Yes, they're communication agents.
So
Yes.
If you cannot communicate properly, then your whole body is going to be messed up.
Yes, out of whack. Yes.
If you message the wrong message, then you don't do the right thing. Like if you get a wrong email.
Yes. So you're having wrong communications, which can be very detrimental.
Like stop eating, but you have to eat.
Yes.
The wrong information, you keep eating, you get fat.
So we're going to end this conversation today. We wanted to keep it short and just focus on the big topics. So female hormones are really very complex. Mike Hyman published a paper about the female cycle being a significant indicator of the health of the community. That when women have significant challenges with their health, it's an indication that something is fundamentally wrong in that community. Because the reproductive cycle for women is a strong indicator of how healthy that community is. So treatment of hormone imbalances must be tailored specifically to the patient needs based on a really thorough evaluation, which is why we run these very, very comprehensive tests. And so functional testing, which is what we do, takes the guesswork out of where the normal balances should be. So even though we may do interventions using diet and nutrients, the big challenges tend to be sleep, toxicity, and stress. And the interventions around that need to be significant lifestyle interventions to address underlying stress. As we know, stress is a very complex subject to address in terms of lifestyle and toxicity. And so building an intervention protocol that goes to the heart of balancing these lifestyle issues and therefore seeing the resulting outcomes with regard to hormonal levels is really the critical strategy for our practice. Thank you.